Almost forgot to turn my microphone on there. That was a close call. Welcome to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball, everybody. I'm Dan Besbris. We have a huge Monday to break down. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it immediately. Yeah, look at all those 12 games. This, again, of course, is the Basketball Monster box score page. It's great. It loads very quickly. That's really, honestly, all I ask for in a website is load fast. I don't want to wait on you. Philly lost in Atlanta, 132-123, the final score. Nice high-scoring game, so everybody got some good fantasy stuff. Big numbers on the Philly side belong to Quentin Grimes, who we told you guys to pick up a month ago, so hopefully you're riding there. Interesting line from Jared Butler, who's had a couple decent ones in a row and is sort of pushing up on that fringe. Gershon Yabusele left partway through, but seems to be fine. And then Lonnie Walker, who was on our watch list coming into this week. And I think you can probably move Lonnie onto the ads board. So guys that I like on the Philly side, and again, we're going to move fast because I got 24 teams to talk about here, and I don't want to spend more than a minute or two on each of them. Lonnie Walker's an ad for me, rest of season, probably, barring, of course, a Paul George or Tyrese Maxey return. That could kind of screw things up for a few of these guys. Ricky Council was interesting here, but you can put him on the watch list. Jeff Doughton on the watch list, Dembona on the watch list, Jared Butler, probably more of a streamer type, and then Justin Edwards also kind of in that same zone. So we're just going to break everybody down today by whether or not I think that you could use them. Effectively, if I call a guy a rest of season guy, what I mean is he a guy that you should hold for longer than a schedule play? I hope that makes sense. On the Atlanta side, they got Vit Krejci back. He played 17 minutes, and he looked pretty good, actually. And if his minutes ramp up to 30, he'll be a fantasy play. So keep one eye. You can keep 1.5 eyes on Vit Krejci. I think he actually has a chance to be kind of an interesting fantasy play down the stretch, but he's going to need to get the minutes back up first. And he missed a month and change, so it's been a pretty good haul here. But I think he's a guy that they want to get minutes to over someone like a Mo Gay or over someone like, I don't know, Terrence Mann. Feels like he could kind of fall behind Krejci in the pecking order. Zachary Risochet had one of his better games. Don't buy into that too much. Mann had a pretty good ball game. There was no Karis LeVert, so that helped a bit every time you kind of thin out the wing ranks. George Niang was decent enough also. But the story is the same for Atlanta right now. Dyson Daniels, Onyeka Okongwu, and when he's healthy, Trae Young are the three guys you start every night. Everybody else, seemingly, with maybe the exception of Keaton Wallace, who's an assist stream when Trae Young is out, everybody else is a schedule level play right now. And I hope that by this time next week, we'll be able to say Vit Krejci's a play everyday guy. But right now, he's a schedule play also. And honest to goodness, I don't know if Krejci's going to play in back-to-backs here coming off of his injury. But I think they'd like to get him into them. The question is, will it happen immediately? So Moge, schedule play. Terrence Mann, schedule play. Clint Capella, schedule play. Risochet, schedule play. Niang, schedule play. Krejci, schedule play. Karis LeVert, schedule play. Probably maybe a little bit better than that for LeVert in points leagues. And then the other guys, the main dudes, are play him every day. For the Wizards, Bilal Coulibaly left early with some hamstring tightness. It didn't sound like a big deal, but again, this is a tanking team, so there's sort of no reason to push it. And what did that do to everybody else? It didn't change all that much. A.J. Johnson picked up a bunch of extra minutes and didn't really do anything with them. Jordan Poole was in for this game. Chris Middleton and Marcus Smart were not. This is the front end of a back-to-back for Washington, so the minutes were a little bit screwball anyway. Keyshawn George, you guys know I love his 9-cat game. He had a 5-block effort here with 3 threes, 3 boards, 3 assists, and he actually shot the ball well. And this is kind of why, this is why I look at Keyshawn George and I keep thinking, man, this is it's more than just the outlines of a good fantasy game. He has just straight good fantasy game, but he can't shoot. If he could just knock down even 40-some-odd% of his shots, he'd be a Goliath. Like right now, he's shooting 45% over the last week, and he's top 50 over that stretch. On 14, 5, and 3 with 2 threes and 3 blocks. So Keyshawn George, to me at least, is a rest of season play. Vukcevic, I don't trust. Justin Champagnie is kind of a steals stream. Alex Sarr is a rebounds, blocks, and some points stream. This was a useful game for him because Rashawn Holmes sat out the front end of the back-to-back. Jordan Poole's a play everyday guy. Corey Kispert is a threes stream. Bub Carrington is a points, rebounds, and assists play when he starts. And now with Coulibaly hurt, he's a nothing. Middleton is a play everyday guy. You just take the missing games. Marcus Smart is a play no times guy. And Rashawn Holmes is hard to call him a schedule play if he doesn't play in back-to-backs, but he's been good enough lately to play if they, go every other day and have like a 4-game week. Toronto is I don't know. It's hard to call this interesting. AJ Lawson had 32 off the bench in this game, which is nuts. No Jakob Poeltl, but that was really the only missing regular. RJ Barrett played, Scotty Barnes played, Emmanuel Quickley played. They're keeping the minutes in check. And the ball game was relatively well in hand. I would not expect AJ Lawson to go for 32 and 12 again at any point soon. But it is worth noting that Toronto's probably going to rest some other guys coming up. This wasn't a back-to-back. This was just a game against a bad team. They've got a game against Philly. They're in Utah. This is a week where Toronto's playing bad teams. So expect other guys to get days off. The problem is if it's not the same guy every game that gets the rest day, it's hard to guess who's going to be useful. So I don't think that there's anybody really on Toronto that I want to take a shot on. Just hold the regulars, hope that they play enough games for it to be good enough. Utah went to the partial varsity squad. They got John Collins, Walker Kessler, Colin Sexton, and Isaiah Collier, he's part of all squads. So Sexton, Collins, and Kessler all played in this one because they figured they could play and still compete or still lose in the end against the Boston Celtics, and it worked out great. Lauri Markkanen was a maybe, and then he did not play. So Bryce Sensabaugh scored 22 points. Go figure. For me, the one thing I feel comfortable with in Utah is if Walker Kessler sits, you play Kyle Filipowski. Otherwise, it's an impossible team to figure out. Keontae George is good when all of the varsity guys sit. Sensabaugh tends to score some when it's the JV squad, but he scored here when it was the varsity squad. And obviously, if Collins is in, you're going to play him. And if Kessler's in, you're going to play him. And if Sexton's in, you're going to play him. It's just hard to know. My guess would be they're in Memphis on Wednesday. So I think you'll see the varsity kids again for that ball game. They host Toronto on Friday. I think that'll be a JV team. And then they've got a Minnesota-Chicago back-to-back over the weekend where you'll probably see the varsity team on Sunday and the JV team next Monday before they play 4 good teams in a row. 5, actually. 6, although one of them's a back-to-back. So you might actually get like the regulars for a decent chunk of games for Utah over the next 2 weeks. This is a pretty good time to have guys like Collins and Kessler and Sexton and maybe even Markkanen. But the best we can do with Utah is try to guess when they're going to play their guys. And then, you're holding Keontae George if he was part of your team build. And you're not holding the other guys. You're going to wait and see and try to guess the game that Kessler's going to sit and drop Filipowski in there. Boston's going to do the same thing. They have a big game coming up. The Celtics do with the Thunder. That's tomorrow. Then they've got a Miami-Brooklyn back-to-back where you'll probably see the regulars take one of those 2 games off. Jason Tatum sat this one out. Kristaps Porzingis has just been out for a while, but Al Horford also sat this one out. So you got 9 threes in a fill-in game from Sam Hauser. And you got an actually okay game out of Drew Holiday, who probably sits one or both of that upcoming back-to-back. And Derek White and Jaylen Brown are mostly playing games, but who knows with the back-to-back. And then you'll probably get a couple of decent Luke Kornet games mixed in there as well. But again, schedule-wise, you're not going to do anything with this team until they get to the back-to-back because you're probably going to see the regulars against Oklahoma City, and that's not a time to pick up a fringe guy. I pretty much have no thoughts on the Charlotte Hornets. The regulars were in for this one, and LaMelo, Miles Bridges, and Mark Williams were all solid enough, and they won. Oops. They're in Atlanta on Wednesday. The Charlotte goes every other day this week, so you might actually see the regulars for all of them, because luckily for the Hornets, they've been so bad for so long that they can accidentally win a game, and it doesn't completely ruin their chances to be in the bottom 3. The Hornets are 2.5 games up on the Wizards. The Jazz are also in that same chunko, but the Pelicans are right there. So the Hornets can't accidentally win too many of these or they're going to pay for it. You know what to do. If Mark Williams sits, you can play Nurk. Otherwise, there really isn't a backup. For Miami, Adebayo, I know Khalil Ware was not good in this ballgame, but Adebayo, Ware, Hero, and Andrew Wiggins are all playable every night. Haywood Highsmith, Duncan Robinson, Davion Mitchell are schedule plays, and that's probably about as far as you go with Miami. Pretty easy team to handicap right now. Lakers just didn't have their head in the game. Both Luka Doncic, I knew he had 22, 12, and 12 triple-double, but he was actually terrible in this game. And the fact that the Lakers were a +3 when he was on the court is kind of a wonder because he just kept getting his pocket picked and took bad shots. He didn't get any calls, and he was complaining about them. And Austin Reeves didn't shoot the ball well. I mean, the Lakers' stars just simply needed to be better. But it did highlight the whole, post-LeBron issue, which is Gabe Vincent had a ton of three-pointers, but if he doesn't, it's a terrible game. Jordan Goodwin, same general idea. Jared Vanderbilt is probably the guy I would trust the most of the others right now because at least he's going to get you some steals and rebounds blended in. But, Dalton Knecht had 19 points, but it took him 18 shots to get there. No one else on the Lakers had any fantasy game whatsoever to speak of other than a maybe on Vanderbilt, which is a shame because the Lakers are off for a couple of days, and then they have the best schedule of any team for the entire season. They go 6 times in 8 days, where almost everybody should be playable in there. Footnote on the Lakers, of course, is they were without Jackson Hayes, who apparently was quite close for this game, but they decided to rest him for one more. They were without Dorian Finney-Smith, who's also not that hurt. Rui Hachimura could come back at any point in here as well. And then we know LeBron is out for probably about 2 weeks, give or take. They said at least 1 to 2. So what does that mean? It could be 1, could be 2, could be 3, could be 4. I hope not. For 6 games in 8 days, there are a lot of Lakers you can play. For a games cap, nope. Now, with Brooklyn, we don't know who's going to sit the back-to-backs. One would assume that Cam Thomas is back tonight. Basketball Monster is offering the guess that Noah Clowney is out for the back-to-back. We don't know. D'Angelo Russell out for the back-to-back? Probably, because we've seen that so far. Does Cam Johnson sit the back-to-back? We don't know. Does Nick Claxton? He hasn't really yet. Keon Johnson was terrible at the free throw line, but otherwise was kind of decent yesterday. Day'Ron Sharpe got his rebounds. Zaire Williams had some steals and blocks, but couldn't shoot the ball. Tyrese Martin couldn't shoot the ball, but he was okay. There's a lot of okay in Brooklyn. And so what I'm going to tell you guys is you're holding on Cam Johnson. You're holding barely on D'Angelo Russell. You're holding on Nick Claxton, and you're holding on Cam Thomas. Everybody else is a scheduled play only, and we will talk about them more on our streaming show because Brooklyn still has 4 games in 6 days, but you probably picked them up yesterday when they had 5 games in 7. So we don't really need to go much farther there. Denver got their revenge over OKC, a monster game from Jokic. Is anybody surprised at this point? He is the number 1. Caught up a game on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which is something. By totals, Shai's still number 1 because of the extra 4 games played. But woof, man, what a year for Jokic. What a cheat code he's been in fantasy again this year. If you have Jokic, you're probably top 3, and you could have completely doinked the rest of your draft. In any event, no Aaron Gordon for this one, so Russell Westbrook was playable. The only other footnote would be that Peyton Watson was streamable, but I wouldn't pick him up for games cap. For the Thunder, Jalen Williams left at halftime with a hip strain. We don't know how bad that is. Hopefully it's not too serious. I'll say for me, I have Tyrese Halliburton now with a hip strain, and now I have Jalen Williams out with a hip strain on one of my 2 head-to-head. I only have 2 Yahoo Cash head-to-head teams. They're both in the semis right now, and one of them just lost Halliburton and Jalen Williams. I got hip issues. That's what I get for calling my network the Old Man Squad. If Jalen Williams has to miss any time, that's going to open things up for guys like Cason Wallace, and Lou Dort did more in this one, and Alex Caruso is going to play more, and Andrew Wiggins going to be a little bit safer, but I'm not going to jump at it until we know more. I can't advocate getting out in front of this one because if Williams plays, then you blow a move on nothing. Indy has not surprisingly been quite bad without Tyrese Halliburton. They've lost all 3 games that he's missed. and they've fallen down to the number 5 seed in the Eastern Conference. They are now tied with the Pistons for that 5 spot, and I know they want to get Halliburton back. They play again tonight. Lord knows I want Halliburton to be back. They've got Milwaukee at home, then they're off for 2 days. I'll be honest. I think they probably sit him again because if he's not all the way better, you sit one more and then you get another 2 days off after this before a back-to-back. But I guess I don't know for sure. And if Halliburton has to sit again, I know that the whole Pacers team was bad in this ballgame. But if Halliburton sits, Nembhard is a play. Normally, I would go TJ McConnell, but I don't know that he's fully healthy right now. It seems like maybe he was playing through an ankle thing, and that's why he played 8.5 minutes. Benedict Mathurin should normally be playable when Halliburton's out. Siakam should normally be better. Nesmith would normally be better. You can pretty much junk this one. And games cap-wise, Miles Turner, Siakam, Nembhard, probably Nesmith are the guys you could play, and then a handful of other guys that have sort of schedule level appeal, which if you picked them up yesterday and you're in a head-to-head mode, you hold for another day because you might as well. Vooch came back and Josh Giddey got hurt for the Bulls yesterday. Those are the 2 big stories on the Chicago side. Giddey going down probably being somehow even the bigger one because he's been on fire lately, but he left the arena in a walking boot. Not a great sign. He'll probably have to miss, one would assume, at least a couple of ball games. Basketball Monster, you can see they have the estimate here at 4 games, but that's really kind of taking the information that we have on him and guessing at a number, but it might be right. Basically, what that should tell you on the screen is, no, he's not going to be out exactly 4 games, but it's probably going to be more than 0 and less than like a month. So if you have Giddey and you're in your playoffs, you might be screwed there. You might end up having to drop. You can wait a couple of days if you want because he's been so damn good and maybe he makes a miracle recovery. But my guess is he's probably out. With Vooch coming back, and Collins still was okay, we kind of, as soon as they announced that Vooch was coming off the bench in his first game back, you figured that Collins was still going to get, 22, 20-ish, something like that, 20 to 22 minutes. And he played 22 and a half, and he was still decent, Collins was. But that number's going to trend down, and with the Bulls having a bad schedule the rest of this week, Zach Collins is probably a drop now. I didn't have the balls to start him against the games cap yesterday, but, you could hang on to him in head-to-head because you already had him on your team. Now's the day to move on. On the flip side, and because the Bulls have a bad schedule, it's hard to call anybody a pickup in head-to-head right now. Chicago's off for 2 days, and then they've got Brooklyn off, Houston off. So, again, not much the rest of the way this week. But if you get all the way around to the beginning of next week and Giddey's still out, I think Kevin Huerter would be an interesting add at that point. And in a games cap format, I think you can add Huerter now or, wait a day or 2 or whatever and then add Kevin Huerter. But if he's playing 34 minutes, which if Lonzo's still out and Giddey's out, he's probably going to have to. This was... the 3 steals were good, but like from a scoring standpoint, this was kind of like the low bar. He took 15 shots and he just couldn't make them. If Huerter's even warm, forget hot for a day, you're talking about a guy that could push up into the high teens in scoring and 3 threes and a couple of assists because Giddey is kind of your point guard there. And now it's Trey Jones and they're going to need somebody else. I guess Kobe White also. But I like Huerter for a games cap ad. Vooch is startable by the next ball game. Buzelis, I'm not interested in, and I've said that 45 times on this show over the last month and a half, but we'll say 46. So, not to get lost in the shuffle here. Trey Jones is a hold. Vooch is a start. Kobe White is a start. Huerter is a games cap ad, but head-to-head, you got to wait till the schedule gets better. And Giddey, probably a drop. That sucks, I know. And Zach Collins also probably a drop. I think I forgot to do... Yep, we forgot. We'll do it now. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, Bet Online is your ultimate game day companion. From every three-pointer to hat trick, Bet Online has you covered with odds, stats, and more on every game, every play, and every win, boasting the largest selection of odds across the interwebs on everything from the NBA to college basketball, NHL, UFC, baseball, football, props, live betting. They've got it, and that's why they're number one in the universe. Bet Online, the game starts here. By the way, if you've made it to this midpoint of the show, I would kindly ask you, because I never even really said hello, I'm Dan Besbris, DanBesbris, over on Twitter. Give a follow over there. Old Man Squad on Blue Sky. And please like and subscribe to these videos. I forgot to say it at the beginning of the show. We'll do it in the middle of the show. Now let's get back to it. Orlando is boring from a fantasy standpoint. Paolo is your punt play. Franz is your everyday play. And Cole Anthony is your head-to-head schedule stream. Houston's sort of interesting, although I think we get Freddie VanVleet back potentially for their next ball game. He was close for this one. They're off today and they play tomorrow. They host the Phoenix Suns. If Freddie's back, that likely punts Tari Eason back to the bench, meaning what do we do with Jabari Smith Jr.? He was good in this one because he hit 5 3-pointers and had 7 rebounds. But overall this year, he's really needed a lot of usage to be a fantasy asset. And it's hard for me to see him getting there when Freddie's in. I think Jabari Smith becomes a schedule play at that point, but I'm not positive. I'll be honest with you guys. Still, Houston's schedule is not bad starting tomorrow. They go 3 times in 4 nights, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and they got a 4-game week next week. So, head-to-head, I wouldn't say no to Jabari Smith starting on Wednesday. Roto, I don't think I'm going to go down that path. But we'll certainly hold on to Eason. Freddie, when he gets back in there, that'll be all systems go. And that's basically Houston at this point. While Amen Thompson is out, it's going to be a lot like the beginning of the year where Thompson was sitting, near the edge of the top 100. And Eason was good, and his role will be safer. Is there one extra guy that'll get to play? Yesterday it was some combination of Steven Adams and Jeff Green. Steven Adams had 17 damn rebounds. I don't think they're going to do that nightly. Phoenix and Memphis had a fun one. KD had 35. Booker had 26. Beal sat this one out, so Tyus Jones was a really nice one-day play in all formats. But in head-to-head, there was not a great idea to pick him up because he's going to be bad the rest of the week when Beal is likely back in there. Nick Richards is a rebound stream for head-to-head. Grayson Allen is a threes and efficiency stream. Royce O'Neal is a threes and rebound stream. This is head-to-head. And Bull has turned back into a turd the way that we assumed he would. So Phoenix, a pretty easy team to handicap right now. Memphis is a slightly more complicated team because we know Jaren Jackson is out for a couple of weeks. Santi Aldama re-aggravated the calf. I'm trying to remember all that. Vince Williams sat this one out. Luke Kennard is dealing with a back injury. And I'm trying to think if I missed anybody. So this, for Memphis, it was the back end of a back-to-back, and Ja played in both. They host Utah tomorrow, which is sort of like their breather game in the middle of an otherwise at the beginning, I guess, of an otherwise relatively tough stretch where they got Cleveland, Miami. Miami's not very good. Sacramento on the road. Portland's actually not a pushover completely. The Clippers, then they got the Jazz again as sort of their gimme in there. Then it's the Thunder, the Lakers, the Celtics, the Warriors. So the Grizzlies have these pockets of really tough schedule coming up. And then Utah in the middle of a couple of them. And that's why you can see on the screen, that's why Basketball Monster thinks Ja Morant is doubtful for the next ball game. They figure they can give him a day off against the Jazz. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I mean, maybe Bane gets that one off. Maybe it's Ja. Do they rest them both? I think that'd be risky because then they end up losing a game that they really need to win. All that said, Scotty Pippen Jr., while all of these guys are out, is startable in all formats. He didn't have many assists in this ball game, but he had a good free throw number, 3 defensive stats. He had a 3-pointer. Usually there will be a little bit more on the assist side. 27, 28 minutes of Pippen Jr. is good enough in most formats. Ja and Bane, obviously, you're starting. And then everything else was kind of split across the board. Cam Spencer had a good game, but who the hell saw that coming? Lamar Stevens actually is a very, very good 9-cat fantasy dude, but we hadn't heard of him basically all year. G.G. Jackson is mostly a scorer, so I'm going to pass there. Jay Huff got the start at center, and if someone told me he was definitely going to play 27 minutes, or he got 25 in this one, I would start him, but I don't think we know that's the case because Marvin Bagley apparently needs to get 22 minutes. And Jalen Wells, former Sonoma State Seawolf, had 23 minutes under his belt. So there's just way too many moving pieces with the Memphis Grizzlies. Scotty Pippen Jr. is really the only other guy I trust. If Kennard comes back on a day that Ja is out, he's a guy I would also drop into a lineup. Woof, I say to you, Memphis. Woof. Dallas, these are the zombie Mavericks. Caleb Martin played 20 minutes. Didn't do much, but keep one eye on him. Max Christie was bad again, shooting. He can't hit the broadside of a barn right now. But that's the reason that I'm holding him. Because again, like, if he even hits, like, 4 out of 15 is a bad shooting game. But 15 shots is a lot. If he hits 7 instead of 4 out of 15, we're talking about probably another 7 points. We're talking about 19, 4, and 5 with a steal and 3 threes. That's a big ball game. Kessler Edwards had 22 and 11. That kind of came out of nowhere. He's a watch list guy for me, and I think you could probably play Edwards head-to-head like a week and a half from now when Dallas' schedule gets better. But remember, they have the 2-game week next week in a lot of teams' fantasy finals. So that's not a week where you're going to want almost any of these guys on your club. Right now, Roto, Klay Thompson, Najee Marshall are guys I'm starting. Max Christie I've benched while he's super cold, but I'm holding him in Roto. Head-to-head, I've also gone Spencer Dinwiddie. I don't trust him night to night. This is a great game for Spencer, but he had horrific shooting games coming into this one. And, like, I don't want to blow a category just because I want 6 assists out of Dinwiddie. That's kind of the trade-off there. You risk blowing categories with him. But with head-to-head, you catch him on the right week, he can be pretty damn good. So that's why I'm going Dinwiddie in head-to-head right now, because they do have a 4-game week. Kessler Edwards, again, I'm not quite there with him. And then, anybody else you can put on your watch list. Harrison Barnes had 29. Keldon Johnson had 28. Barnes has not done anything, even lately. Keldon Johnson's been a pretty good source of points of late, and that continued here. So he's a points streamer. We talked about that on our streaming shows. The everyday guys are Vassell, Chris Paul, and De'Aaron Fox. Stephon Castle is a punt play or a streamer play, however you want to catalog him. And that's kind of all you need to worry about with San Antonio. I thought Julian Champagnie might have a chance to be a streamer because Jeremy Sohan was out. And nope. Well, maybe we should be a little bit more judicious with our streamer calls. Denny Avdia, huge game for the Blazers. Love when everybody scores a bunch of points. Anthony Simons put up big numbers. Donovan Clingan put up big numbers. I actually told you could drop Clingan if you wanted to yesterday. I still feel that way because this is the good, and then you blend it in with 2 or 3 kind of mediocre games, and you average out to meh, which is where he's been lately. But again, like, a lot of teams need what he's bringing right now, which is rebounds, blocks, and field goal percent. I'm holding him in a lot of spots because I do think that at some point here, the Blazers, who have lost 4 games in a row, nobody wants that last playoff spot. It's still the Mavericks right now. Man, what if the Mavs made it through the play-in? I don't think they will. But they're still hanging in there. They got a 2.5-game lead over the hapless Phoenix Suns. At some point here, the Blazers are going to be mathematically eliminated. And then you're probably going to see Donovan Clingan get 30 minutes a game without messing around with other dudes. And at that point, you're definitely going to want to have him. But right now, they've still kind of deluded themselves into thinking they're competing. So that's why half the time you get more Jabari Walker or Duop Reith or whatever. Shaedon Sharpe is a play in head-to-head. I don't have the balls to play him against the games cap because the bottom can fall out the way it is in this one. Tumani Kamara salvaged this one with a lot of nice defensive stats. He's a play basically everywhere. Avdia is a play when Jeremy Grant is out. That one's been sort of a 1-to-1 correlation all season long. Warriors. Jimmy Butler triple-doubled. He's obviously been solid since the trade. Gary Payton and Buddy Hield combined for 46 points and 10 three-pointers. If you saw that one coming, congratulations. Quentin Post also hit 4 threes. Warriors hit everything in this ball game. Moses Moody, also another decent ball game. Draymond kind of had his first bad one in a while, but he also had 4 steals, so it's okay. Here's where we're at with the Warriors. Let's simplify it. Draymond, Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, those are the easy calls. Moody is, to me, a schedule play, like a really good schedule play. But the Warriors have a bad schedule the rest of this week. So you're not adding any of these guys in head-to-head. If you had Moody on your team, this would be the day that you drop because this is the end of the Warriors' decent scheduling run. Now they're off. They have a bad schedule for 6 days before it picks back up again for 4 games in 6 days starting next Monday. And that's when you can get back in on these guys. So to that end, I don't want anything to do with these fringe players in head-to-head. And I definitely don't want anything to do with them fringy in Roto. Moody was the closest with Podziemski out. That's why these other guys got more playing time also. And so if you really wanted to, like if you're in love with Moses Moody getting you some threes and a steal, fine, you could hold him in Roto, but I don't think you really have to. Knicks absolutely stomped the Kings, which is a damn shame because if they didn't, we would have had even more fantasy stuff out of these guys. But Miles McBride, Jalen Brunsonless, he was the ad, and he delivered in this one. Deuce was solid. 21 points, 7 assists, 2 steals. Knicks have a bad schedule also, but theirs doesn't turn ultra sour until after Wednesday. It's not great right now, I'll admit, but they've got another game on the road, and then they've got 2 days off after that. And the Knicks are just they're basically right smack in the middle of a bad scheduling run that lasts about 10 days. Still, Roto, you're holding on to McBride. Head-to-head, you could hang on to him. And I'd probably drop on Thursday if you're in a competitive battle. And then the rest of the guys, you do what you always do. You're not picking up Landry Shamet or anything like that. Don't read too much into the Kings stuff. Malik Monk came back with 21 points and rendered Keon Ellis useless again. So that's kind of the one note I think on Sacramento is that Ellis went from starting and being a must-play guy to coming off the bench and just simply not being a must-play guy. And for the Kings, you kind of go back now to starting the starters. Guys, check out our buddies over at UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up today using promo code OLDMAN, OLDMAN, or just simply click the link in the show description to unlock up to $1,000 in bonus cash on a 50% deposit match and a free play to use whenever you want. Because at Underdog's Pick'em, all you got to do is pick higher or lower on any 2 players on the board. Any 2. Projection. Doesn't have to be points. It could be rebounds, assists, some combination of points, rebounds, and assists, steals, blocks, first half, second half, quarters, all this type of stuff. And that's just basketball. You can see on your screen right now, they got college hoops, soccer, NHL, baseball, tennis, PGA, League of Legends, all these things you can build into a pick'em card. And if you sign up today, again, with that promo code OLDMAN and unlock a free play, it basically turns one of these things into a guarantee. So on that one, you'd only have to hit 1. You don't even need to hit 2. I am not ready to put a card together today because we don't know who's in and who's out for most of these teams. But, you figure Chris Middleton in probably for Washington against a Detroit team that defensively hasn't been as good lately. They're scoring more points. So do we go over? Do we go higher on Middleton? Do we go lower on some of these guys like I don't know, who are we looking through the board here? Corey Kispert. Do we go lower on a Bub Carrington if we think Jordan Poole's back in there again? I don't know. Rashawn Holmes is an intriguing one. Look, we even got a prop on Simone Fontecchio if you really think you know what's going on there. Brooklyn, depending on who you think is in and out. Cam Thomas probably back. Is he a guy you want to take a shot on? This is going to be a fight. Do we go lower on D'Angelo Russell and hope he gets scratched? I think they would void the play at that point anyway. So you can scroll up and down the board. You can try to deep cut it. You go Clippers, maybe find a deep cut on that team. All you got to do is pick 2. That's what makes it so easy and so fun. You don't have to build an entire DFS card together. That's hard for me. I don't know how Brenton does it, but he does it really well. It's just too hard for me because I'm an idiot. Well. It was asked of me to please put a quick recap at the end of the show. And so we're going to do that right now. Here is your recap slide. See, I take your advice because when there's a really big card, it's hard to remember everything that's going on. So this is a tweet I put out that basically has the nightly recap in super fast form. The ads or near ads from Monday: Lonnie Walker, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Huerter, Jabari Smith Jr., Tyus Jones was a fill-in guy, Scotty Pippen Jr., and Spencer Dinwiddie. Those are the ads or the near ads. The watch list is Vit Krejci, the Thunder if Jalen Williams is hurt, and Kessler Edwards, and Keon Ellis was the one guy I thought that came out of Monday as a pretty clear drop. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I am Dan Bespris for the Old Man Squad. Please subscribe to the channel on the way out. We're still managing to wedge out about 10 new subscribers every day, so I'd love if you could be one of those. Make us part of your fantasy daily nutrition, your daily diet. And I would be super flattered by that because I didn't think there was a prayer I would get to 7,000 subscribers here in our first year of running this YouTube page. But we got there, and with a month to go, I don't know, maybe we can get to like 7,250. Pretty reasonable goal before the offseason hits. And then my goal is to not lose that many. But we do have shows all offseason long. We'll go Monday through Friday, one show a week. Simple, effective. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. What I don't know is how to come up with interesting visual aids on those shows. So some of them are just going to be me yelling at you for 25 minutes. But I also have a really big piece of news on someone coming aboard here at Old Man Squad that I am very, very excited about, who you guys already see on the show very regularly, but will become a much larger piece of what we're doing here, especially on the Old Man Squad YouTube channel. So stay tuned for that announcement. That's probably coming at some point later this week. You guys might be able to figure it out. You guys know who my very close friends are here, but it's still a really big deal. I'll see you guys later today with the streaming show. Pick up, baby.